The spotlight is on Nigel Farage's Reform UK more than ever, as the party leads the polls and has entered local government across the country. But things haven't actually been going smoothly for Reform, which is showing some signs of turmoil. It's losing councillors at an unusual rate, it's struggling to cut down council spending, continues to deal with scandals and controversies at the local and national level, as well as a lack of any developed party machinery. So in this video, we'll look into whether Nigel Farage's party will hold it together until the next general election in 2029, or whether it will fall apart in a similar manner to Farage's previous political outfits. The next issue of our magazine, Too Long, is coming out soon, with this issue focusing on realignment in the Middle East, discussing how recent events fundamentally reshape the region. Pre-order your copy or subscribe by clicking the link in the description. So, we're essentially going to split this video into two parts. In the first part, we're going to take a look at the various problems that have afflicted Reform in recent weeks. And in the second part, we're going to explain how they're all symptomatic of structural problems for Reform, and all of Farage's political parties really, namely their personalistic reliance on Farage himself. Anyway, let's start with the problems they're facing right now. A lot of Reform's teething issues have to do with Reform's impressive success at the local elections in early May this year, when Reform won some 677 new councillors and gained 10 local councils. Perhaps most notably, Reform ended 30 years of Conservative leadership in Kent County Council, one of England's largest local authorities, with a £2.5 billion annual budget. Reform won 57 of the 81 seats, a result which Farage called the most significant day of my career. Many observers saw it as a litmus test for whether the party could actually govern rather than just campaign. But Reform's first 6 months at the flagship council have been marked by internal rows, councillor resignations, and complaints about poor coordination and inexperience. Local opposition figures have accused the new administration of descending into chaos, and at least 8 official complaints have been filed to Reform's South East Regional Director within 3 months of taking power. Leaked footage obtained by The Guardian also showed the council's leader telling colleagues to, quote, suck it up during a heated internal dispute. Since then, 5 Kent County councillors have been expelled from Reform, 2 of them after criticising what they described as toxic and incompetent leadership. Another Reform councillor, representing Cliftonville ward in Thanet, was arrested in June for allegedly threatening to kill his wife and exercising coercive control. Across the country more generally though, Reform have been losing councillors at an unusually fast rate. According to Politics Home, Reform have lost 36 councillors of the 677 that won in May, 11 of whom have been expelled, 6 suspended, 9 have left the party, 1 has defected to UKIP, and 9 others have resigned from their councils altogether. And this doesn't even include a number of Reform councillors who have been effectively removed from their positions of authority within their councils. Some of these expulsions have hit the national headlines. One councillor, for instance, was expelled after he shared a social media post saying that Hitler would have been a, quote, legend if he targeted Muslims. Reform's MPs in Westminster have also had their fair share of controversies. James McMurdoch gave up the whip after it was uncovered that he had taken advantage of the COVID-19 bounce-back loan scheme and also was charged with assault when he was 18. While another Reform MP, Sarah Pochin, was forced to issue a public apology recently for complaining about the demographics of adverts during a Talk TV interview last month, where she said it, quote, drives me mad when I see adverts full of black people, full of Asian people. Reform councillors have also struggled to cut spending. For context, during the local elections, Reform promised to radically cut council spending, apparently inspired by Elon Musk's experience at the helm of the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, back in the US. But this hasn't really happened. 6 months in, Reform hasn't carried out a single audit, as they promised they would during the campaign, and have struggled to cut any spending. In fact, many of their claimed savings have actually been reductions in what's known as capital expenditure, i.e. investment in local infrastructure, which is sorely needed in most areas of the UK. And in the past couple of weeks, at least 6 Reform-run councils have quietly signalled that they'll have to raise council tax by the maximum of 5% in order to balance their books, according to LBC. When pressed on these shortcomings, Deputy Leader and Head of Reform's Doge unit, Richard Tice, told Politico that Doge is more, quote, a philosophy of saving money. The idea that they were going to find billions of pounds in savings at local councils always felt implausible though, not least because English councils have suffered severe real-term spending cuts since at least the 2010s, and most of their budgets now go into social care, which is something you can't easily cut. It's also worth noting that Doge itself didn't really succeed. This year, the US is on track to run a budget deficit only slightly smaller than last year's massive one. And most fiscal consolidation here didn't come from Doge-related spending cuts anyway, but rather from new tariff revenues. Anyway, you get the idea. Reform has suffered its fair share of scandals in recent months, and none of this has proven to be a good look for a party trying to prove that it's competent and capable enough to run the country. And that takes us on to the second part of this video, the party's reliance on Farage himself. Much of Reform's success in the polls has been credited to Farage's charisma and relentless media presence, which has been able to essentially paper over other problems among Reform's MPs and councillors. But while at first look this might look like an advantage for Reform, and it's undeniably helped Reform maintain their poll lead, this dependence does come with its risks. With UKIP, for instance, Farage's personal appeal fueled its success, but it then collapsed into infighting, with donors warning that the party was turning into the Nigel Farage party rather than a serious political organisation. This risk has resurfaced again in Reform, and become apparent when one of the 5 MPs elected in the 2024 election, Rupert Lowe, was expelled from the party after a reported row with Farage. He's since gone on to set up his own new party, Restore Britain, and called Reform a protest party led by the Messiah. This feud between Farage and Lowe didn't just cause internal damage though, but also dented Farage's image among his own supporters. It's not just Lowe either. Ben Habib, one of Reform's founding figures, was also removed as deputy leader after falling out with Farage, and has since accused Farage of running a one-man band, warning that like every entity Farage has been associated with before, he's never developed a broad and capable team around him. Now, in Farage's defense, running Reform as a one-man band makes sense when that one man can take them to 30% in the polls. But it might make voters think twice about voting Reform into power if they don't think that Reform has the organisational infrastructure to actually govern effectively. If you're interested in major news events like this, you'll have certainly been paying attention to what's been happening in the Middle East recently, with the whole region seemingly in a state of flux. That's why the next issue of our magazine, Too Long, is all about that issue, with our headline section titled The New Middle East. In it, we run through each country in the region and discuss their future, before reflecting on how recent events have reshaped the Middle East forever. We obviously talk about the Middle East a lot in videos, but this is our most zoomed out, detailed and thought through coverage yet, truly outlining how we see this region re-emerging. It's not just that though, there have also been a lot of major elections this year. So in this issue, we have a whole section talking about all of the major elections that have taken place this year, and how global politics has changed. China's continued dominance, politics in the UK, and how politicians have hijacked social media. This latest issue is now available for pre-order on our website, and as always, subscribing will get you 20% off not only this copy, but also every future copy as long as you're subscribed. Plus, this time round, we're also offering bundles with our book Assembly Required and our 2026 calendar. For instance, you can subscribe to Too Long and get a copy of the book for just $43.99, or add a calendar to your subscription for just a few pounds more. Anyway, click the link in the description for all of the offers, and thank you for supporting the channel.